The classroom was unlike any place on Earth. Tall walls glowed with soft blue light. Strange symbols floated in the air like tiny stars. The desks were smooth stones that seemed to hover a few inches above the floor. Dozens of alien students sat in neat rows, their long limbs folded and eyes bright with curiosity. At the front, a tall teacher with 4 arms and shimmering green skin stood ready. In the center of this scene sat one human. He wore a simple uniform, no different from the aliens around him, but his heart beat faster than theirs. He did not yet know how much his small voice would change everything. For the first minutes, the teacher spoke in a calm tone. "Today, we will learn about Earth's greatest dangers," the teacher said. His 4 hands moved in the air, pulling up holo images of giant creatures. First came the towering Tyrannosaurus, jaws wide and teeth sharp as spears. The image roared, and a deep sound filled the room. Next was a massive megalodon, swimming through dark blue oceans with teeth as large as logs. Then came the fierce Goliath spider from Earth's rainforests, its legs long and hairy, its bite deadly. The human watched these beasts with wide eyes, but he did not see the whole truth yet. The aliens leaned forward. They whispered among themselves in soft clicks and hums. They had studied Earth for many cycles. They knew the fossils and the legends. They believed they understood every beast that ever lived on that small planet. Their teacher's voice echoed as he described how each creature ruled its time. No being can match the strength of the T-Rex. He said, no ocean predator can outmatch the megalodon. No web spinner is more fearsome than the Goliath. He spoke with great pride, as if no living thing could surprise them now. But the human's mind raced. He remembered stories from home stories his people told about a danger no one else noticed. He thought of the nights when he listened to old hunters beside campfires. He thought of the maps he drew of hidden places. He thought of a very small creature, but one so strange that it could change everything these aliens believed. He kept his face calm, but his fingers gripped the edge of his desk. The holo images shifted, and he felt a surge of hope. If he was brave enough, he could teach these mighty aliens a lesson. As the teacher moved to the final beast, a colossal, dragonfly-like creature from ancient Earth skies, the human raised his hand slowly. At first, no one noticed. Then a hush fell. The teacher stopped, 2 of his arms frozen in midair. All holo images dimmed, and every alien turned their glowing eyes toward the human. His pulse thumped in his ears. He had one chance to speak. The room seemed to hold its breath. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. Not all beasts live on land, and not all beasts show their strength and size. The words echoed in the silent hall. Some aliens shifted on their floating desks. Some clicked their tongues in surprise. The teacher looked at the human with curiosity and a hint of doubt. "Explain yourself," he said. The human nodded and stood up. His uniform felt tight around his chest, but his mind was sharp and steady. He knew exactly what to show them. The classroom lights dimmed again, and a new holoscreen appeared behind the human. On it, a dark shape pulsed with green light. The teacher leaned closer. Alien students edged forward, their long fingers touching the air as if to feel the new image. The humans saw their faces change. They no longer looked confident. They looked eager. They leaned in so far that their desks trembled. This was the moment he had waited for. For a full minute, the holo image stayed still. The green glow grew brighter. The human took a breath and raised his other hand. "Many think Earth's deadliest beasts are the biggest or the strongest. But I learned of a creature that can melt steel with a drop of its acid, a creature so small it could hide on your fingertip." The room went darker. The teacher's eyes shone wide with wonder. Alien murmurs filled the air. Even the tiniest student leaned forward, clicking softly in amazement. In that moment, the human felt the power of a single truth. He stood in an alien school, surrounded by beings far older and wiser than him. Yet he held something they did not know. He felt a thrill of hope and pride. He lowered his hand and smiled. The teacher raised one of his arms and nodded slowly. "Very well," he said. "Show us this creature." The human did not hesitate. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, clear jar. Inside, something tiny moved and glowed. The human held it up for all to see. And as the light from the jar filled the room, every alien knew their lesson had changed forever. The human's claim. A hush fell over the classroom as the human rose from his desk. The 4-armed teacher watched him closely, 2 arms still raised from mid-gesture. The holo images of Earth's great beasts flickered and dimmed behind him. Every alien student leaned forward, their smooth heads tilted and eyes glowing brighter. Even the smallest alien, no larger than a rabbit, floated. Nearer on its desk, the human's heart pounded, but his voice stayed steady. He spoke slowly, choosing each word. I'd have seen a creature that makes those giants look harmless. He took a breath and began to tell his story. On my world, he said, we hear tales of monsters in ancient books, but we also learn that danger can hide in plain sight. He pictured the alien faces turned toward him, some curious, some doubtful. When I was a boy, he continued, I explored deep caves under Earth's deserts. There, I found tiny drops of acid on rock walls. Those drops melted steel in minutes. I thought, if one drop can burn metal, what makes the creature that made it so strong? At that confession, the aliens murmured softly. The teacher clicked his tongue twice, signaling the human to go on. The human described the cave's red sands and rising heat. He painted a clear image, how he wore a simple mask and gloves, how he used a glass vial to collect those glowing acid drops. He spoke of the thrill and the fear as the acid hissed when it met the vial's metal lid. In that moment, he said, I knew Earth held a secret no one else had seen. He paused, letting them imagine the scorching air and sharp hiss. Then he spoke of the hidden lab he built with help from village elders. By day, he studied the acid under a simple microscope. By night, he watched the little creature that lived in the rocks. It was no bigger than a thumb, with a shell like glass and legs so thin they looked like spider silk. Yet its bite carried that same acid power. The human's eyes shone as he remembered guiding it to feed on metal scraps, watching it dissolve. Then in seconds, aliens scribbled notes in glowing tablets. They exchanged quick hums and clicks. The teacher's forearms floated beside him as he weighed the human's words. The grand hall felt smaller now, as if that tiny creature filled every corner. The human spoke of months spent learning its patterns, how he fed it crushed metal and watched it grow stronger. He told them how he named it corroder for its acid gift. His voice carried pride, but also respect. He knew the aliens valued knowledge above all else. In time, he said, I learned to handle corroder safely. I wore gloves made of layered stone cloth. I built glass containers strong enough to hold its acid, and I kept records of every tiny wound it made on steel. I measured its strength, its speed, its hunger. He tapped his tablet, and a small holo chart appeared, lines showing acid levels, temperature resistance, survival rates. The aliens bent lower, their eyes scanning the chart. Even the teacher's arms lowered as if to touch those glowing lines. Then the human reached into his pocket and pulled out the clear jar. It looked ordinary, but inside, corroder skittered, its legs clicking softly against glass. The jar glowed faint green. A hush so deep fell that every alien's breath became visible in the cool air. The human held the jar up, his arm steady. This creature may be small, he said, but its power comes from its acid. It can eat through a container in hours if left alone, and if it got loose, well, you would never stop it. A ripple of excitement ran through the class. Some aliens drifted forward, their long fingers reaching out. The teacher clicked his tongue 3 times, a sign of deep respect on their world. He then tapped his chest twice, signaling the human to sit. As the human returned to his seat, the holo images of dinosaurs and sharks vanished completely. In their place floated a single green symbol, corroder's shell. Moments later, the teacher spoke in a calm but firm voice. Human, he said, you have shown us a truth we did not know. You prove that size does not always equal strength, and that knowledge can come from the smallest source. Today, this class will remember Earth's deadliest beast not as a giant, but as one we almost overlooked. The human exhaled in relief, his heart still racing. Around him, the aliens rearranged their holo textbooks, eager to learn more about the tiny powerhouse in the jar. By the end of the lesson, the classroom energy had shifted entirely. The human sat among equals, no longer the simple student, but the holder of a vital secret. The teacher's bright eyes met his, and in that moment, both knew the path ahead would never be the same. Alien reaction and challenge. A ripple of energy passed through the classroom. When the holo symbol of corroder glowed in midair, the four-armed teacher's eyes widened, and 2 of his arms folded across his chest in a thoughtful posture. Alien students drifted closer on their floating desks, their long limbs bending as though they struggled to contain their excitement. Even the usually reserved rabbit-sized aliens hovered nearer, their tiny antennae quivering. The classroom air felt charged, as if every being in the hall sensed the weight of this discovery. The teacher tapped his tablet twice, a sign that he wished to speak. His voice echoed in soft, melodic tones. "Human," he began, "your claim is strong. You have shown us the acid, but in our archives are legends of other beasts, some buried deep beneath Earth's crust, others hidden in oceans blacker than space." He pointed to arms toward the holo display and summoned faded images of subterranean worms, a mile long and glowing sea leviathans. These images shimmered behind the human's jar, overshadowing it for a moment. A murmur passed among the students. Some clicked their tongues in agreement, others hummed doubts. The human's heart pounded, yet he remained calm. He took a slow breath and lifted the jar higher. The green glow inside contrasted sharply with the dim blue of the older holo images. He wanted to prove that Kuroda's small body held more power than any giant worm or leviathan. He knew what he must do next. The teacher nodded once, his eyes fixed on the human. "Then show us," he said. "Let Kuroda prove his strength here, under our watch." The human felt the weight of every creature the aliens had ever claimed to know. He stepped forward onto a raised platform at the front of the room. Beneath him lay a single steel plate, thicker than a ship's hull. Alien guards had brought it from the school's engineering lab just for this test. The human placed the jar gently on the plate. Kuroda stopped moving for an instant, as if sensing the challenge. Then its tiny legs began to crawl across the glass floor of its container. The aliens leaned closer, their breaths visible in cool air. The human set down a small metal rod next to the jar and tapped a button on his tablet. A soft click filled the hall, and the steel plate began to heat. The teacher raised an arm, signaling the start of the experiment. For the next minutes, Kuroda stayed calm. Its shell glowed brighter with each passing second. Suddenly, it lifted one leg and touched the metal rod. A hiss rang out, and a tiny drop of acid fell onto the steel. The drop sizzled and ate into the metal, leaving a dark, bubbling hole. The human's tablet displayed temperature, acid concentration, and time elapsed. Alien students watched the chart intently, their glowing eyes wide. When the hole widened to the size of a coin, the teacher tapped his tablet again. He lowered his arms in victory. "This is more than legend," he said. "It is proof." The holo images of giant worms dissolved, replaced by the single green symbol of Kuroda. Alien scribes recorded every detail in their floating logs. The classroom was silent except for the hiss of the acid and soft clicks of alien pens. Finally, the teacher turned to the human and bowed his head in respect, two of his arms extended, offering a silent gesture of honor. "You have taught us humility," he said. "Today, we learn that even a small being can hold power beyond our greatest expectations." The human nodded, his heart light. He had faced an ancient race of scholars and won their trust. Around him, the aliens prepared to rewrite their entire lesson on Earth's beasts, starting with the tiny creature they almost overlooked. The creatures revealed. The classroom lights dimmed once more. As the human calmly lifted the glass jar from the heated steel plate, a soft green glow pulsed from within, casting eerie shadows on the alien faces gathered around. Every pair of eyes were on the teacher, two on most students fixed on the jar's lid. The human placed it gently on a small pedestal at the center of the room. He took a steadying breath, unclicked the seal, and the air hissed as fresh currents rushed in. For a moment, nothing moved. Then a faint skitter echoed inside the jar. The aliens leaned closer, their long antennae bending in synchronous curiosity. A single drop of acid slid down the glass wall and landed on the pedestal surface. The drop hissed and steam rose. The teacher raised an arm, signaling the human to proceed. The human nodded and slowly removed the lid. At once, a tiny shape emerged. It was no larger than the human's thumb, with a shell that looked like cracked emerald glass. Its legs were so thin they seemed almost invisible, yet each ended in a hooked claw that gripped the jar's rim. A row of tiny spikes ran along its back, each tip glowing like molten metal. The creature's antennae to thin filaments wavered as if sensing every air particle. The alien students gasped in clicks and hums. The teacher's eyes widened, and he tapped his tablet to record the moment. The human gently lowered his hand so the creature could step onto the pedestal. As soon as it touched the cold metal, its spikes flared brighter. A ripple of energy traveled through its body, and it lifted one leg to release another drop of acid. The tiny drop struck the metal and burned through with a sizzling pop. The aliens shivered. Some floated backward, as if fearing the acid's heat could burn through their armor. One rabbit-sized alien covered its mouth with a long hand, its antennae trembling. The classroom were filled with the hiss of steam and the low hum of shocked conversation. Holocharts flickered on the walls, showing the pedestal's metal thickness, the acid's temperature, and the time since the jar opened. The human watched closely, his eyes calm and full of pride. He reached into his pocket and held up a small vial of neutralizing agent. With a twist, he poured a drop beside the creature. The acid stopped eating the metal. The creature paused, its emerald shell reflecting the classroom's blue light. Its body trembled slightly before it scuttled back toward the jar. As if inviting the aliens to study it more, the teacher's arms moved in unison, summoning new holo images. They showed close-up diagrams of the creature's anatomy, acid glands in its abdomen, microscopic teeth along its mandibles, a complex nervous system that controlled spikes for both defense and chemical reaction. Each image faded into the next, and the aliens leaned forward to take in every detail. The smallest rabbit-like student even reached out a finger toward the holo diagram, its eyes wide. "Observe," the teacher said, his voice calm but filled with awe. "A creature that uses chemistry instead of claws or fangs. A being that turns its food into acid and uses that acid as its strongest weapon." The aliens nodded, their previous lessons erased from their minds. On their floating tablets, they began to write new notes under a fresh heading. Corrodors, small as Titan. As the human replaced the jar's lid, the room fell silent again. He smiled and bowed slightly. The teacher returned the gesture, then faced the class. "Today, we have learned that power does not always come from size," he said. "It can come from skill, from chemistry, and from will." The human sat down, exhausted but triumphant. Round him, the aliens prepared to dive deeper into the study of the tiny creature that had forever changed their view of what a beast could be. When the jar was sealed again, the teacher summoned the floating holoscreens to the front of the room. On the left screen, an image of Corrodor gleamed, its emerald shell glowing in stark contrast to the classroom's blue light. On the right, a detailed chart lay ready, waiting for the human's data. Alien students leaned in, their long limbs folding as they prepared for the next lesson. The teacher's forearms hovered over the screens, signaling that it was time for the final challenge. The teacher spoke first. "Human, you have shown us Corrodor's power on steel," he said in a calm voice. "But legends tell of beasts that lived in magma, in storm clouds, and in crushing pressure beneath oceans. How can you prove that this tiny creature surpasses them all?" His arms pointed to holo images of lava worms, sky serpents, and deep-sea leviathans. The images flickered as alien scholars whispered in clicks and hums, each convinced their legends held more power than Corrodor's acid. The human took a deep breath. He tapped a button on his tablet, and the chart on the right holoscreen came to life. It showed 3 columns: beast, strength measure, and human comparison. Under beast, images of lava worms, electric eels, and giant crabs from absol trenches appeared. Next to each, numerical values glowed in white: crushing force, electrical discharge, and acid resistance. The human pointed to the numbers and spoke in a clear voice. "Lava worms," he began, "survive in heat above 1,000 degrees. Their bodies are strong, but they cannot digest metal. They feed on rock, not steel." He tapped the screen, and a small bar graph appeared below, showing metal digesting power as 0. "Sky serpents," he continued, "can create lightning, storms. Their electric shock can stun a large creature, but electricity cannot dissolve steel. It only leaves a mark." Again, he tapped the tablet, and the bar remained flat. "The leviathan crabs under crushing pressure at the ocean floor could snap anchors in half, but they cannot break the bonds of steel with acid." Alien students clicked their tongues in surprise. The teacher lowered the arms, a sign of thoughtful pause. The human then tapped the final row of the chart. Corrodor, a tall, thin bar shot up beside the tiny creature's icon. The bar glowed green and pulsed gently. Under strength measure, the chart listed 2,500 psi acid burn per square millimeter and complete metal dissolution in under 2 hours. Under human comparison, it read most powerful acid discovered. The human explained each data point calmly. He described how he tested Corrodor's acid on thick steel plates, on copper coils, on alloy samples from his village. He spoke of how he measured the burn rate, the acid's regeneration speed inside Corrodor's glands, and its resistance to neutralizing agents. He told them how he repeated each test dozens of times to ensure accuracy with each sentence. Another holochart flickered to life, time-lapse videos of acid-eating holes, temperature readings that hovered above boiling, and microscopic images of corroders' acid glands at work. A hush settled as the final video played. In slow motion, viewers saw a drop of acid strike a steel plate and within seconds carve a deep gouge. The human paused the video at the right moment, zooming in on the bubbling metal. Alien students gasped in clicks. Some drifted back, their limbs trembling. The teacher's for eyes shone with new respect. He tapped his tablet once more, and the old holo images of lava worms and sky serpents dissolved completely. Finally, the teacher faced the human and bowed deeply, to arms reached toward corroder's jar, and pointed to the human's chart. "You have proven beyond doubt," he said, "strength is not only in size or force. It can be in subtle, hidden power. You have shown us that knowledge and careful study can reveal the true deadliest beast." The classroom erupted in respectful hums and clicks as alien students recorded the new lesson. The world would remember corroder as the mightiest creature of Earth. Alien lesson learned. A quiet excitement filled the classroom after corroder's test. Alien students drifted closer on their floating desks, leaning in to study every detail of the tiny creature's jar. The teacher lowered two of his arms and tapped the central holo tablet. In a soft voice, he said, "Let us erase our old images of Earth's beasts. Today, we learn from the smallest among them." At his words, the holo projections of dinosaurs, sea leviathans, and sky serpents vanished. In their place, a single image of corroder glowed, framed by new labels and data points. Bright-eyed students raised their hands in unison, clicking with curiosity. The teacher pointed to one by one and asked them to speak. The first alien, a tall scholar with silver skin, asked how corroder's acid formed inside its body. The human smiled and explained his careful methods, how he fed corroder metal scraps, then collected and purified its acid for study. He spoke of gentle temperature control, of glass tubes cooled by water, and of nights spent watching tiny bubbles form inside corroder's glands. Each detail awed the students, who recorded every step in glowing script. Another alien, small and furry, asked what corroder ate besides metal. The human answered honestly, "It feeds on rock minerals and metal. In the wild, it finds tiny metal specks in Earth's crust. Those specks give it its power." The furry alien clicked its antennae in delight. It floated forward and whispered to the human, "Teach me how to feed it." The human nodded and promised to show them safe methods after class. The teacher raised all four arms to quiet the chatter. "Today," he said, "our lesson is more than biology. It is humility and open mind. We began this cycle believing only in giants. Now we see that even the smallest being can hold the greatest power." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. Then he tapped the holo symbol of corroder and added, "We will include this lesson in every Earth study across our academies." Alien scribes activated new holologs. They sketched corroder's emerald shell, traced its acid glands, and noted the human's careful methods. They attached the human's data charts to their planetary archives. The classroom buzzed with fresh energy as students imagined new research. Could there be other tiny Earth creatures with hidden powers? Could they learn from humans how to find them? At the end of the lesson, the teacher turned to the human and inclined his head in deep respect. "You have expanded our knowledge," he said. "We offer you a place among our scholars. Will you join us to teach in our galactic academy?" The human's heart swelled with pride. He bowed in thanks and accepted the offer. In that moment, he was no longer a lone student but a bridge between two worlds. As the class dispersed, the human packed his tools and journal. Around him, alien students discussed field trips to Earth's deserts and volcanoes. They planned to meet corroders, kin, and unlock more secrets. The human paused at the door, looking back at the classroom, now filled with holoscreens of small, wonderful life. He knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one where humility and curiosity would guide every lesson in the stars. Final twist and departure. The lesson hall grew quiet once more as the teacher and students absorbed the day's discoveries. Corroder's jar sat in the center, its green glow faint now that the trial was over. Alien students drifted toward the exits, their minds buzzing with new questions about Earth's hidden wonders. The human gathered his tools, his tablet, a small vial of neutralizer, and a leather-bound journal where he had recorded every detail of corroder's behavior. He paused at the edge of the raised platform and looked out over the classroom. One last time, the teacher approached, his forearms folded respectfully. "You have changed our view of Earth," he said, his voice a soft hum. "We will share this knowledge across all our worlds. "You are always welcome here," the human nodded and bowed. His heart swelled with pride, but he also felt a spark of something else, anticipation. He knew that Earth still held many secrets, each more surprising than the last. As the teacher signaled the end of class, one brave student, a tall alien with silver skin, floated forward. "What else do you wish to show us, human?" she asked, her bright eyes full of hope. The human smiled. He reached into his pocket and produced a small, rolled map. "There is more to Earth than rocks and acid," he said. "Wait until you learn about our oceans. There, creatures live in darkness deeper than any cave, and some can glow brighter than your stars." He handed the map to the silver-skinned alien. Her antennae quivered as she unrolled it, revealing swirling blue currents and tiny markings at the ocean floor. A murmur of excitement rose. In the hall, alien students hovered near the map, pointing to trenches and ice sheets. They clicked their tongues and tapped their tablets, eager to plan new expeditions. The teacher raised his arms for silence. "Then it is decided," he said. "Our next study will be of Earth's deep waters. We will learn from the human and from the creatures that dwell there." The hall lights dimmed and a hollow title appeared above the map. "Next, Secrets of Earth's Oceans." The human took a step back, his mission complete, but his journey just beginning. He gathered Kuroder's jar and placed it in a protective case on a floating cart. Alien guards rolled it gently toward the exit. Students called out thank yous and farewells as they filed past. Some bowed deeply. Others clicked their antennae in salute. The human waved, feeling a warm glow in his chest. Just before the doors closed, he turned and whispered softly, "This is only the start." Outside the hall, the corridor lights brightened, showing walls lined with holo displays of worlds beyond. The human walked forward, ready to guide the aliens to Earth's next great marvel. As the doors slid shut, the teacher pressed a button on his tablet. A final message glowed in the empty classroom. "Subscribe to our Galactic Academy channel to continue the adventure. Like, share, and prepare for the dive into Earth's deep seas." The echo of his words lingered, promising more discovery, more suspense, and more chances to learn from the smallest and most unexpected teachers in the universe.